If your doctor puts these 2 words in your chart, it doesn't mean that you're going to die anytime soon, but it guarantees that your death is going to be slow. Before we go any further, this video requires a disclaimer because if you're new to the channel, you should know that I'm a board-certified medical doctor who has treated over 55,000 patients in my 15-year career. And obviously during that time, it's pretty easy to spot trends in the American healthcare system. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the one that bothers me the most. And lastly, I've started to incorporate more healthcare videos into my channel, so if you like them, please do all the things below so you'll know when the next one is available. Okay, so back to the video. Every time you see a healthcare professional, you probably know that they finish the encounter by completing a medical chart on you. These days, most of these charts are electronic. Oftentimes, the chart is very formulaic. It'll start with the history of the present illness. There'll be other things like social history, past medical history, surgical history, but then it gets to the physical exam, and that's the key point to the topic of this video. In the physical exam section, you'll see things like cardiovascular exam, pulmonary exam, neurologic, abdomen. The list goes on for a complete exam. But at the very beginning of the physical exam, they have something called general, and that's typically where you just type the overall appearance of the patient. To expedite things in the medical community, it'll be pre-filled. Oftentimes it'll have something like well appearing or NAD, and the NAD stands for no acute distress. It's in this section where I've been having to take out the no acute distress and put something different. Oftentimes in my field of emergency medicine, I will be taking out no acute distress and I'll have to put something like patient appears acutely unwell, or they're missing their left arm, or there's an obvious knife sticking out of the stomach. You get the idea. But it's in this section I've been having to put these 2 words with increasing frequency. And let me put everything into context so you can understand. I remember distinctly a patient from earlier in the year that was brought in by her 3 children. It was a mother. She was in her 70s, arguably morbidly obese. She was, 100 pounds overweight. She was average height, maybe 5'6", and she suffered from the classic diseases of prosperity: diabetes, cholesterol, hypertension, congestive heart failure. And that was one of the complications she was having. She was retaining fluid because of her heart failure. She was already on a bunch of diuretics and nothing seemed to be working. She not only had the weight from her obesity, but she had all the additional weight from the volume overload from her congestive heart failure. She was breathing okay. She wasn't requiring oxygen. The problem is she just lacked the muscle tone to overcome all the additional weight from her own body weight plus the volume overload. And at this point in the video, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not 300 pounds. This video doesn't apply to me. And I promise you it does. Because whether you're 100 pounds, 150 pounds, 200, 300, 400 pounds, you're going to fall onto a curve that I'm about to tell you about. The 2 words that I'm writing in the general section with increasing frequency are obese and deconditioned. And when you put those on a graph of time, you'll notice the unfortunate trend that I've been seeing. And the point is, regardless of your age, regardless of your body mass, everybody fits on this graph. You can see on this graph the x-axis is age. Everybody ages, everybody's going to die. But death isn't the problem. We're all going to die, and we all want to die in the way that we want to. The real problem that's happening, we shouldn't be concerned about death. We should be concerned about where our lines on this graph intersect, because it's a statistical fact that as we get older, we will gain weight. And as a statistical fact, as we get older, we will lose muscle mass. And where these curves intersect is of utmost importance, because once you hit that intersect, you can see that you're pretty still far from death. But the time from this point to death is miserable. It's in and out of hospital, it's in and out of assisted living facilities, it's in and out of rehab, and ultimately your family can't take care of you anymore, and you're in a nursing home. You're on these medicines that the pharmaceutical industry is giving you, you're taking them, but they're keeping you alive, and during that time, after your point of intersect, it's just suffering. The patient example that I mentioned previously, she was 100% sharp upstairs. Brain worked great, but her body was done. She was beyond the intersect. Once you get past that point, can you go back? Yeah, it's possible, but the amount of resources it would take, only a small amount of people are going to be able to do that. And statistically speaking, it's just not going to be you. Look, it's clear that obesity is bad in and of itself, but once you are obese and deconditioned, it's over. So what do? Look at this example of a 30-year-old. This guy is 6'2", he weighs close to 300 pounds, and you can see the musculature on his CT scan around his spine. His paraspinous muscles are nice and thick and strong. But as he gets older, those muscles are going to atrophy, and at some point he's going to develop degenerative disc disease. Statistically speaking, he's going to have a heart attack. The medicines will keep him alive, but his body is not going to be strong enough to handle the weight. The point of this video is, of course it's not great to be obese, but it's far worse to be obese and deconditioned. So if you're struggling with weight like a lot of people are, understandable. If you've given up on diets like a lot of people have, understandable. If you've got that mindset that you're not going to be able to lose weight, look, your weight problems might not be your fault, might be some genetics going on, you might not be able to afford healthy food, I get it. It might not be intrinsically your fault, but it is your problem. you have to figure out a way to counter it. And if you're unable to lose the weight, at the very least, you have to start doing strength conditioning. It will delay your point of intersection on this curve, and you have to start conditioning before it's too late. I've got more healthcare videos in the pipeline. I hope you enjoy them, and I'll see you next time.